Before we get to this episode, I want to ask you a quick question. Are you a woman who's 50 or older? And are you ready for a career or job change? Maybe you're yearning to do more meaningful work that really lights you up. I'm asking because my friends Dana and Wendy of Camp Reinvention have the coolest career program. It's called the Career Change Accelerator Program, and they coach amazing women in a 12-week program to reimagine what their careers might look like and to help them see new possibilities. Their very cool program is kicking off on October 27th. And if you even have an inkling, I might be ready for something new and different, I invite you to check out the details. There's a link in the show notes, and let's get busy and think about new possibilities.
I think the biggest thing is tuning out other people's noise about how you ought to move in the world. And I think this is critical for women, whether you're Black, white, or otherwise, I think it's threefold for Black women, but women in general, to tune out those voices of people telling you what you should be doing, and tuning all that out to sort of chase a dream. And I think for me, the biggest lesson was, if I don't do this now, I don't know when I'll do it.
Welcome to Reinvention Rebels. Stories of brave and unapologetic women, 50 to 90 years young, who have boldly reimagined life on their own terms to find new purpose and possibilities. I'm your host, Wendy Battles. Ready for a dose of inspiration? Let's get to it. If you live in New Haven, Connecticut, or nearby, you probably know of Babz Rawls Ivy. It's easy to get drawn into Babz' magnetic energy, engaging personality, and a passion for all things New Haven. And even if you don't know her personally or even from a distance, you are in for a treat. Let me introduce you to the badassery of 57-year-young Babz and share a peek into what makes her the reinvention rebel that she is. You may have seen her work in the Inner City News, the award-winning print publication she edits, or read her words as a nationally recognized blogger and social media influencer. Babz is also a popular podcaster and frequently sought-after guest for local and national radio, television, and podcast appearances, like today. She is a morning radio personality and producer of Love Babz Love Talk Show Monday through Fridays at 9 a.m. and co-host of Criminal Justice Insider with Jeff Grant, a radio show and podcast. CGI highlights and showcases matters and issues about the criminal justice system. But that is just scratching the surface. Babz is an active and committed community volunteer, offering her time and talents to numerous local organizations, including Planned Parenthood, Common Ground High School, the Arts Council of Greater New Haven, and Long Wharf Theater. I see her telling stories through New Haven storytellers, throwing herself fabulous birthday parties, and enjoying time in Paris, among other things. She is so cool. She also has several advanced degrees and is a certified spiritual director, the Mercy Center School of Spirituality and Practicum. We got to talk about that. Simply put, she is fierce and fabulous. Babz Rawls Ivy, welcome to the Reinvention Rebels guest chair.
Oh my God, Wendy. That's the best doggone introduction I have ever gotten. You must come with me everywhere I go.
I'm happy to. I'll just be your copywriter, your person on the side, your PR person.
My hype girl. My hype man.
Right?
That was good.
But isn't it fun to hear someone talk about us and really
Yes,
appreciate us when I know sometimes we're like, well, I kind of do that stuff, but you're a person that claims it though.
I hope so. I don't have a choice, right? What else are you going to do? Yes, I claim I own it. I do it. I own it.
I love it. I love it. Now, I honestly can't remember when it is we actually met. It's been so long that I'm not even sure how it was or when.
I don't know, but I remember you used to make jewelry, your jewelry days, because I still have pieces that I bought from you,
Amazing. That's so funny. That was,
which I still love. Yes, I still have pieces that I bought from you. I met your brother and his wife. We were in adoption class together.
I remember that.
That's how far back we go, right?
Yeah. I
Um,
love it.
so
I
I mean,
love
so
it.
that's a long time.
It is.
Yeah,
And one of the things I love is that you spend so much of your time interviewing other people.
I do.
And today I get to turn the tables and I get to interview you, which is really fun. I want to start our conversation today by asking you a little bit about reinvention in your own life. As you know, Reinvention Rebels, the podcast, is all about inspiring women about what's possible. And I always say it's for women between 50 and 90, anywhere in between. Any woman that's thinking, I would like to find my inner reinvention rebel, but I'm not really sure how. So at 57, I'm interested in how you have reinvented yourself, especially in your 50s. What have you done to reinvent yourself in ways that maybe you hadn't even imagined?
I mean, I think I've been reinventing myself since I was like 5. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I think there's a real trajectory of that. I think a lot of it by happenstance and a lot of it by force of nature and luck. I mean, several things have happened. Some very traumatic things have happened that caused me to reinvent myself and to get hold of myself. Some very life-changing things like getting married and adopting children, changes one's life. I mean, those were big, big issues. I mean, just going off to college and graduating from college. I mean, that was, big life-changing things, particularly when I'm the first one in my family to go off to college. So, I mean, so there's all these little periods of, reinvention. I think as soon as I turned 50, though, I think life became my own life. Once you grow the children up and out the door, you look around and I had so much time. It's amazing how much time you get back when you push kids out the door.
I guess humans don't realize it because you're so busy consumed raising them, doing all those
Yes.
things, the right that parents do, that all of a sudden you're
Oh
like,
God.
hey,
And you have all this free time. And then I'm a single woman. I got, a lot of things happened. I got divorced. I went to prison. I did all these things. So I had to reinvent myself. And I started reinventing myself online first, creating an online persona and creating and joining online communities. That really was the catalyst for all the choices and the change. And I just got to a place where if I don't do things now, when will I do them? And I think 50 gives you that. I don't know if you get that at 20 or 30 or 45. I really think for women, 50 is that magic number where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna pivot. You
yeah,
know, I
yeah.
really do. I've yet to meet any woman who at 50 didn't say, you know what? I had a dream at 20 that didn't pursue, or I had a dream at 30, or I see all these people doing this thing and I feel like I could do it now. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're right. That number it's just such a significant number. It feels like we're halfway there. So many years have passed. I see new possibilities, or I want to do something meaningful with the next half of my life.
yes, and that's really what it is, Wendy, because I mean, I've seen you, have drive to sort of, jobs and corporate climb. I mean, we both have done that, aspire to climb and get in the game and do these things, and then something happens. Then you start to shift, and you're like, oh, I don't want to work that hard anymore. I don't want to play those corporate games anymore. I don't have anything to
Exactly.
prove.
Exactly. The money isn't
I
that
don't want to be
important.
a boss. Right. I don't want to be the boss. Like I don't want the corner office floor. I want to be at my house. You know what I mean? Like
I do. I do. And I think I found it's not as great as it's cracked up to be. It seems on the outside like this life looks so good. And then sometimes you get into it and you realize, well, it is not exactly what I was expecting.
right. And then you make a decision. Do I spend 20 more years at this? Or do I get off the beaten path and go chart my own course?
Like, what are some of the powerful lessons you've learned from reinventing yourself? What's something that has happened that maybe you didn't expect or you've just learned along the way from all of these different reinventions in your life?
I think the biggest thing, and I was talking about this just the other day on somebody else's podcast, I think the biggest thing is tuning out other people's noise about how you ought to move in the world. And I think this is critical for women, whether you're black, white, or otherwise. But it's I think it's threefold for black women, but women in general, to tune out those voices of people telling you what you should be doing. Do you know what I mean? Or,
Yes.
how could you? How could you? How could you? How could you give up this job? How could you? Why would you? And tuning all that out, to sort of chase a dream. And I think for me, the biggest lesson was if I don't do this now, I don't know when I'll do it. Like, I don't know when this opportunity will come again. Because people are hostage to the choir of them and they. People are held hostage by what they will think or what they will say. I mean, people are really held hostage to that. And it's a hard ransom note to write. It's a hard ransom note to say, I'm not going to listen. Because sometimes that means cutting ties with people and things, because they're not team you. They say they're team you, but they're not team you when they're not listening to you chase your dream. They think they're helping you. And what they're doing is overlaying their fears on top of your opportunities.
That is exactly right. It's that fear. And I think if we can overcome that ourselves in our own life, it's much easier when people say whatever they say to cut ties or distance ourselves or recognize this person isn't really good for me anymore. Maybe I've just outgrown this relationship because I need to surround myself with people that will support me, cheer me on, encourage me, know that they believe as much as I do that I can make whatever my dream is a reality.
Yes. Yes. And I think once people, if you look at all the people who have redefined success for themselves, they will say, once I stopped listening to other people, once I just said, I'm going to stay focused on my own prize, that's when it got sweet for them. And I believe that because it's gotten sweet for me. Once, I remember I've been in my new apartment this will be the second summer. This will be my third summer. So I've been here 2 years. And I had such anxiety about giving up my house, because I was in financial disarray. And I had been in financial disarray before, but I always sort of worked hard, put my head down, sucked it up, and rescued and figured out ways to pay. But once I started seeing my children fly the coop, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to let this go. Maybe this dream that I had of raising these children in this house that is financially killing me, it's time to let it go because I am house rich and cash poor. And it takes a lot to sort of say, I'm going to let this go.
Oh, yeah.
And I let it go and didn't look back. And people were like freaking out. Like, really, people were really like, how could you do that? You've been in the house for 20 years. How can you just let it go? Watch me.
Right.
And it just made so. Now, I'm not suggesting that people let their houses go. That's not the message.
Right.
The message is you have to listen to what makes sense for your life, and let go of the thing that is drowning you.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying about letting go is so key because in my own life, I know that I tend to control things. And by control things, I don't mean controlling other people, like you should do this, but in terms of the ability to want to make things happen. But I feel like when we can let go, when we can have that experience, when we can really trust, there is so much freedom on the other side.
Yes. And I don't think people understand the sweetness of freedom. Like I wake up now and I'm not freaking out about how I'm going to pay this mortgage every month. Like I
Exactly.
don't have that burden anymore. I
And
just
that's a big
don't.
burden. Yeah, because that's a big deal and it weighs
Huge
us
deal.
down.
Oh God. And I was so defeated by, the house note, the car note, the insurance, tuition for the children. I mean, it was just so many things. And then once I just laid it all down, I'm like, oh, I really could take myself to Paris and not feel some kind of way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
nothing is going to get turned off, right? Like, I actually can do some things. I have some freedom, I have some wiggle room to do some things. And that's a much better feeling that I enjoy more than this going to bed every night praying that some miracle would happen and I would, you know, figure my way out of this financial mess.
Yeah,
When I already
exactly.
had the answer, I just had to walk through the door. You know what I mean? Like walk
Yeah.
through and shut the door behind me. So that's what I did.
I love that. That's so empowering. And there's something you said that when you like get this wisdom that we have, I feel like we already have this wisdom inside us. And it's easy sometimes to ignore that.
Yes.
We trust our head, not our heart. How have you gotten better at that? Or were you always great at that?
Um, I think I was deliberate in understanding that I would be my own savior, that I would give up being my own assassin. So once I said I don't want to be my own assassin anymore, that I must save myself. And saving yourself begins with, okay, what do I know about myself? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? Okay, what is true here? Like, what's the truth? And this is many, many nights of being on the floor crying. You know, Wendy, I was in divorce court. I was in criminal court. I was in bankruptcy court. I was like in every court in the land, civil court. And you just get to the place where is there a bottom? Where is the there? Uh, and then I realized if I keep asking for the bottom, I'm never going to get to the bottom. I'm going to keep this kind of. So I had to change my thinking. I had to change my self and say, okay, what do I want? That's a very hard question for people. What do you want? People cannot answer that. If you walk up to somebody on the street or in your circle of friends, what do they now they could tell you what they think they ought to have, but they're not going to tell you what they want because they think what they want is unattainable. I see that so often that people what they want, they think it's unattainable and it's not for
Mhm.
them. And they don't tell the truth about it. People don't tell the truth about what they want.
Especially as we age, I mean, things change for lots of different reasons. We often don't feel like maybe we deserve something, or like you said, it's attainable. There's probably a lot of different reasons that go into why we sometimes can have a limited mindset about
Yes.
what's possible. But part of what I see in you is that you have this very expansive mindset. And an illustration of that is you going on this amazing trip to Paris.
Yes.
And I think this is a great thing to talk about because I know a lot of women would like to have adventures, but for lots of different reasons, whether it's money or expectations, whatever, they limit themselves. So what is it for you about traveling and going on this trip in particular that was so fulfilling, amazing, fill in the blank? What was it that happened for you by doing that?
Paris was my ashram. It was my Mecca. It was my eat, pray, love. It was, all those, like everybody has that thing that if they could just get to it, they will have accomplished something. So Paris for me has always been that city that just called to me. And I never was able to go for a lot of different reasons, financial reasons, because I was a mother and I had children, and you just can't go.
You're right. Can't just drop everything and be like, see you
I'm going
kids,
to
I'll be
Paris,
back. Right.
you know. So so I went to Paris on my birthday, and I wanted it to be very cliched. I wanted to have April in Paris and wake up on my birthday. So my birthday is May 2nd. So I got to Paris late April, the last 2 days in April, and then I ended up waking up in Paris on my birthday, which was wonderful. And I went by myself. I went alone. I didn't do a travel club or anything. I just I picked a time, and these days you can book stuff and pay on it and do all these things. So I was saving my money. So I found an airline that round trip was like $500 and something dollars.
I
Um,
love it.
I found a hotel that was $600 and something dollars for a week. In the heart of Paris, like in
Wow.
a place where I went in the Latin Quarter of Paris. You know, and I just thought, I'm going. I know I just needed to go, and that was the beginning of just reclaiming my life. It was the beginning of reclaiming myself, like my own individual self. I was going as myself, not as somebody's mom, not as somebody's wife, not as somebody's girlfriend, not as somebody's, I wasn't going for work. I was just purely going for absolute pleasure because it
I
was a
love
dream
that.
deferred.
Oh, yeah. And I think that we, as women, generally, we need to spend more time going for it. Really
Yes.
tuning into what is it we really want? How is it I can achieve it? Because I feel like there are so many different ways we can make something possible.
Yes.
There's sort of route A, and maybe that's the straight route. But as we know, life is full of detours and often doesn't end up that way. But there's still so many ways around that we can make something happen.
Yes. And here's the thing. The moment that I said yes, everything around me supported the yes. Like everything just fell into place. Like it couldn't have been easier. Like I had booked my airline flight, and my good girlfriend, her husband, booked the same flight. Now I didn't know this. They live in Paris. Well, before the COVID, they spend half the year in Paris. They spend their summers in Paris, but they couldn't go. Last year because they had kids that were playing in various um, soccer tournaments, and so she didn't go with him, but he had to go because he teaches and all that other kind of stuff. And so we, unbeknownst to me, he had booked the same flight. So when I was at her house and she was laying out for me, okay, this is what you should do in Paris. You should go here. You should do this. And she goes, oh, by the way, when is your flight? And I said, this is such and such. She said, oh my God, that's Paul's flight. I was like, really? So she goes, oh, then you and Paul must go to the airport together. She's like, how are you going to the airport? I was just going to book a car. I wasn't really overly worried about it. I was just going to book a car. I like car service. So he's like, no, so she's like, no, he's booked a car. Just get in the car. So I made my way to their house, got in the car, and it was a wonderful opportunity to travel with a man who was not my husband or my love interest. It was really, really nice, because then I wasn't alone, but I was alone, and so it was nice that I had a familiar person and he speaks perfect French. So it was lovely. So he got me through all the, the hard.
Better.
We got on the train and we went into the city, and he brought me to my hotel. He walked me all the way to my hotel. I mean, it was great. It was absolutely great.
I love it. So I think when we this is such a great example, when we put ourselves out there and we trust that it's all going to work out. So many times things, like you said, just fall into place in just the right way, which sometimes feels like coincidence or serendipity, but I always feel like it's just meant to be.
Like The Alchemy. Have you ever read The Alchemy?
I have.
And I think there's a line in it that says, the whole universe is conspiring to give you what you want, to paraphrase that a little bit.
Exactly.
There's real truth in that.
There really is. I'm a big fan of the book called The Universe Has Your Back, which is...
I haven't read that one.
It's a great book by Gabrielle Bernstein, and it's all about this
I know her.
idea, yeah, right, of things conspiring in our favor when we can put it out there and we get clear about what it is we want, our desires. The universe just naturally works to support us. And this is such a perfect
Yes.
example of like this in action.
Yes. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, really, the universe just made a way for me, and I had such a wonderful time. I mean, I had a wonderful time. I enjoyed Paris very much. My girlfriend's husband picked me up for dinner for my birthday, so I got to have romance in Paris on my birthday. We went to this wonderful little Asian restaurant for dinner, and we walked the streets of Paris, and I mean, I just was happy. Like it was like Paris was just waiting for me. You know how they say Paris is always a good idea? It is.
Right? It really is. It really is. And I think that this can be really inspiring for women that are in that space of, I want to feel a little more empowered, or I want to feel a little more confident in getting out there, whether it's traveling by yourself or traveling with other women. I mean, there are so many wonderful resources to travel with, so you don't have to travel alone. And, our girl Erica is like an amazing travel agent. So she always helps me book travel. I've, recently found all these different groups. Like one is Sisters with Suitcases. Have you heard of that?
Oh, no, but I know Sisters Who Travel Solo. That's another one.
Okay. There's so many now.
Yes. And this one is mostly in my age bracket. Like they share my sensibilities around comfort. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I know, right? This is not the hostile version of this, right, girl? I've been down that path. I'm a little old for that now.
Yes. No, I can't share bath. I can't do any of that now.
Yeah, I know. I need my own space. I want to stretch out. I want I want to be surrounded by beauty, which is not asking a lot.
Yes. I'm so with you, Wendy. I need a little Lux. A little bit of Lux. I need a little bit of Lux.
Exactly. Right. Because I feel like too, if I'm going to do this and I might not be back ever, I want to truly be in that experience. I want to have the best possible experience, like you going to Paris.
Yes.
And just drink it up.
Yes, I did. The only thing I didn't get to do was, go to the nightclubs the way that I wanted to, and the jazz club. Because, things started like 10 o'clock.
Let's not talk about that, girl.
You're out all day long, and you get back to your hotel room at about 7 because you done had dinner, and then you're like, well, I'll take a nap, and I'll get up at about 9:30, and I'll hop in a Lyft or Uber, or Uber is the big thing there, and I'll go to a jazz club. Girl, I would wake up and it'd be like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Isn't that a shame? I guess that's being 50 something, where before we would have in our younger days.
Out at 11. Like, are you kidding me? I would have been out till 4 o'clock in the morning.
I know, but that's okay. You know what? We can experience things in lots of different ways, and I think that's really the best. Hey, amazing listeners. Want to have Reinvention Rebels inspiration delivered to your inbox? Head over to reinventionrebels.com and sign up for my news and notes. So, I began this podcast as a way to really change the narrative about how older women are seen in our society. Oh. And we already know the limiting notions of older women and how we become invisible, how our value is so much tied to our looks. And when we lose that, then, I don't want to say we're just thrown away, but obviously it's not the same. But I really believe, as I know you do too, that there are clearly no limits to what we can do and achieve. So one of the things I talk about a lot is encouraging older women to become more unapologetic about their dreams, which is basically what we're talking about. You just said, look, I want to go to Paris. I have done my duty. I have raised these beautiful kids. I have sacrificed a lot, but now it's Babz time.
Yes.
Like, you unapologetically claimed that. I'm curious, have you always had that kind of approach to life? Have you always felt unapologetic about claiming what you want and what you desire? Or is that something that has evolved over time?
I mean, I think I've always been this way. I think as I'm aging and growing up, that it is it is centering. Like in my it's centering. Like, when I was a younger woman, this kind of force I would try to dial back. This kind of energy you try to hide. You try to don't, no one will find you attractive being this aggressive or this open or this, you need to dial it back a little bit. So I think I've always had it. I just would not let it out. But now, F it. I don't know if I can
Right?
cuss. I don't know if I can cuss on your show. So I just like F it.
Totally and completely. And yes, you can if you feel so inspired. But I totally get that. I think you get to that certain age, you're like, whatever.
Seriously.
I need to just be me, right? I just need to be me. I need to be my amazing, fabulous self and not apologize for that.
Yes. And you wake up one day and that's what it is. Like once I, realized, I mean, there's something that happens to you when you no longer care if your breasts are hiked up to your throat, you know,
Yes.
or you no longer care if you could wear stilettos. You want comfortable shoes, but you still want to be sexy. But sexiness is not tied to stiletto, 3, 4, 6-inch heels. You know that your sexiness is not tied to that. You know that your sexiness is not tied to a garter belt and some ridiculous stockings.
Exactly.
So those kinds of things you just like, I'm not, what? Do I enjoy this? No. Do I want to be wearing this? No. Now, don't get me wrong. I like a good sexiness like anybody else, probably more so. But you start to understand that sexiness is not what the commercial world gives you. It really is, what your mind says, what you believe for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
I believe that to be so true also.
And if I waited to lose 50 pounds before I could have sex, I would never have sex.
Right. And like,
But you know
why
what I
would you
mean?
do
Like,
that? Yeah, exactly.
listen, I have a tummy. I have a lot of tummies, and I have a lot. I mean, I have all these things. That's it. These breasts are not perky. They're gonna go where they're gonna go.
Yeah.
This butt is no longer defying gravity. It's just gonna. It's gonna expand. That's it. And if I allow that to let that be the sum total of who I am, then I wouldn't enjoy my life.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that expansive thinking is so helpful as we age when we can get messages that I'm not good enough or I'm not whatever. And you have this completely opposite perspective that, okay, yep, those things aren't happening anymore. Some of those things aren't, my body's changing, but so what? Like that's not a reason to stop me from having joyful experiences.
Oh, I hope it doesn't. And you know
Right.
what? And I think too, Wendy, having lost some people that are dear to me is a wake up call. When you lose people who are dear to you, and you know that the hopes and dreams that they held for themselves that they didn't get a chance to do, it really makes you think about your own mortality and what are you here to experience? I don't know what people's calling is. I don't want to suggest that everybody has a calling, but I do think that that we are here to have joy and love and happiness. And that can be in the smallest ordinary of things if we allow ourselves time to notice, to pay attention, to listen, that kind of thing.
So true. And I certainly think that as terrible as the pandemic has been on multiple levels, from losing people we care about to just the isolation that we all feel, one of the upsides, however, has been this ability to increase my appreciation for little things that I was too busy to notice because I was running around all the time.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That So that
Yes.
has been something that's been positive. I know, because sometimes it's hard to find things when it is like, if I spend another day by myself or,
If
in
I
the
don't get
house
out
or
of this house.
exactly. And it wasn't so bad in the summer because it was warm outside, or the fall or the
Yes.
spring, any season but the winter, it was manageable at least.
Yes. And I have this whole porch situation now, right? Like I have this whole porch situation, which has really become its own hub.
Oh, I've
And
seen you on
people
the
have,
porch.
yes, and people sort of come and gather. And I really just treat it like holding court. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if any given day after 3, 4 o'clock, if people drive by, I'm sitting on that porch with a cocktail or a bottle of wine and some tapas or snacks. And people are welcome to sort of pop in.
I
To
love
just
that.
pop in and have a glass of wine or some snacks, talk, unburden themselves. There's a rocking chair, so if you want to sit in a rocking chair, or if you don't want to sit in a rocking chair, there's several other kinds of chairs. And it's far enough back off the street so that you can enjoy the street without being in the street.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that as a way to really connect, because I think so many of us are craving connection
Yes.
right during this
Yes.
time. And we all spend a lot of time on Zoom or online doing the kind of things that gets old. You can only do that for so long. And yes, you can connect with people that way, but there is nothing like seeing a friend, a
Yes.
cousin, whoever that
Yes.
person is in person, even if you're socially distanced, even if they're 6 feet away.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, my porch is testament of that. The first summer that I was here, I mean, it was a hub. I mean, it really was a party place. I mean, party place where people would we'd spend into the night sitting on the porch, talking, laughing, drinking, all kinds of stuff. And then last summer, pretty much the same, you know, I mean, last summer was the COVID, which we were all shut down. And so my girlfriends they would call me up on a Saturday and they're like, okay, I want to come and work on my projects on the porch. And I would say, all right, because they know
Love
I
it.
got stuff here. Just,
Right.
pick a chair that you like. I got Wi-Fi. I'll run a cord. I've got chargers I can run through the window. And you sit right out there all day. And we'd sit out there all day and have food delivered. And, we just.
That's the best. I mean, that really is. That really is. And I think that's interesting because, one of the things certainly that happens, and you just alluded to it, is when as we age, obviously our world can tend to get smaller
Yes.
because, right, people we care about pass on, or people move away, or for numerous different reasons, it's just not the same. And to me, creating that sense of community has become even more important.
Yes.
And I really love but I mean, you're such a community person anyway, girl. You're all about the community. Everybody knows Babz. If you live in New Haven, you can't not know Babz, in everything that you do. But I just love this idea of new ways to create community.
Yes. Particularly a porch is so much a part of our history, right? And people have gotten away from that. So this pandemic has forced us, people are spending more time outside. People have been like, because you've been on your porch, I'm on my porch now. Because I've seen you decorate your porch, I'm decorating my porch. Like, yeah, enjoy your space, whatever, such that it is. I'm in the middle of the hood. So what? My neighbors have flowers and all that kind of stuff. So,
We can find beauty anywhere in anything, big or small. That, of course, I mean, going to Paris is a great way to find that beauty, but
yes, it's my goal is to live there. I like to live there for a year or two. Like I loved it that much. Like I could.
really,
Yes.
which is a great segue into talking about, you're 57, being that I'm just, a few months behind you. In my mind, we're going to live a long time.
I hope so.
Right? I feel like we're just kind of getting started in this next phase of our life. And I'm kind of curious about, where do you see yourself going in the next 10 or so years? How do you envision reinventing yourself? What's in the future for Babz?
I talk about this with my girlfriends all the time. My next act. You know what I really would like, Wendy? I like a guest house. I was thinking about a guest house in Costa Rica or Kigali, Rwanda, like a hotel, like my own little inn, bed and breakfast. Not huge, few rooms with en suites where people can come and relax. It's not a party place. It's a we're gonna go to Babs because we want some peace and quiet wherever she is. I want it to be vegan. I want it to be serene. I want it to be calming. I want the sheets to be exquisite. Do you know what I mean? Like
Sign me
that's
up.
what I
I'm
want.
there. That sounds
That's what
amazing.
I want. The next, and I'm trying to sort of figure that out for myself. Because I don't think I'll ever retire. Like retire is never going to be in my vocabulary. Like I'm never going to not be working unless I meet a man who is so rich and he is like, your job is to spend the money, right? Like,
Right. And it could happen, but
well,
if it doesn't,
whatever,
right?
girl, whatever. But
Exactly.
in the meantime, um, I've been talking about this with my good girlfriend and a couple of my girlfriends, and I mean, we have been having serious conversations and looking at properties. Like, what could we do? What would make sense for us? We like Costa Rica very much because the standard of living is wonderful. Um, um, the properties are within a price point that we are comfortable with. We don't want like a big giant boutique hotel. We just want like, 6, 7 room inn kind of thing, you know, um, close to a city, but not in the city, that kind of thing.
Sounds amazing.
So I'm really thinking about that, where we can offer retreats, that expats could come hang out. I really would like a split life, 6 months in Connecticut in the spring, summers, or no, summer, fall, and then the rest of the time back in my tropical paradise, wherever that
I
is.
love it. I'm right there with you. And, I have all these ideas, not necessarily about having an inn, but moving somewhere tropical potentially. My girlfriends and I always say, oh, we're going to be like the Black Golden Girls,
Yeah,
the four of us.
that's what we're thinking. We are in that same space too. We are thinking that same thing. Like, we're gonna have to retire somewhere, so why not? And to be able to have some money coming in would be nice. And have people that we know stay with us for periods of time. Like that would just
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
would. I mean, I'm a person for hospitality always, so that would be right in my wheelhouse. I always wanted an inn. I always wanted a guest house kind of vibe. I treat my space like that already, so it would be natural for me for this part of my life. And now don't get me wrong. I would hire people to do all the things, the cooking, the cleaning, the making of the beds, the running of
Of
the inn.
course. Of
Yes.
course.
Now I'm not trying to do that, but
No, 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 no. You're too old for that. I mean, that's why you get to a
yes,
certain age and you can afford to hire people,
yes, I want
right?
to
And
hire people.
so that you can actually enjoy your guests. I mean, that's part of the
Yes,
beauty of this idea because to me it feels like a lot of it is about building community no matter where you are, whether
yes,
you're in New Haven or you're in Costa Rica or somewhere else.
yes.
You have this innate ability to bring people together and create this sense of community, which it sounds to me is completely fulfilling for you.
It is. That's what I want. I mean, I think I'm living as close to my best life now as I can. I mean, I think the only thing that I'm missing is like I don't have time to read all the things, read all the books that I want to read, right? Like I don't have nearly enough time to do that. I don't have nearly enough time to chase artistic things. Like I was taking tap dancing classes before it became too
That's
painful.
right. I forgot about
Yes,
that.
and I will resume them once these hips are repaired. So I will be back in tap dancing class. But it's those kind of things. I'd like to take a painting class or sculpting class. I want to chase art that way. And this part of my life, I want to make things and create things, not because I fancy myself an artist, but because I want to be in the artist spotlight. I want to be in that world. I want to just care about beautiful things and how that is in my life. Like I just want to do that.
I'm right there with you. I like the idea of totally both between community and creative endeavors, because I also think too, given that these days we tend to live a long time, or it's possible to often live a pretty long life. But to keep ourselves vital, we obviously need to be using our brains. We need to be doing productive things. We need to do things that bring us joy. So for lots of different reasons, I see this very creative future for myself, which, we're going to write that story, whatever that story is.
And you're a creative person. Like when I met you, you were making jewelry. I mean, you were making jewelry. I think you were making soaps or candles, or I don't know. Were you ever doing
It's
that
definitely
too?
making jewelry. I was doing,
Yeah.
back in the day, Denise, Paige, and we had this thing called Kumba Collective. I mean, I have
Yes.
been through, how we all have reinvented ourselves many times, just like you said earlier. And I have done that myself many times throughout my life. I reinvented myself as a voice actor back in the 90s. And
Yes.
right. So all kinds of things. And it's interesting because when we reinvent ourselves, I don't think we ever know where it will lead. Sometimes we do things and it kind of sometimes ends up being a dead end. Well, that didn't really pan out. And I don't know what the value of that was. And sometimes I beat myself up over, I wish I hadn't done X. But then it always seems like later on, all these things somehow magically come together. And all those,
Yes.
right? Those
Yes.
experiences weren't for
Yes.
nothing.
Yes.
But sometimes they're or this challenges we have that seem like, why has this happened to me? I can't believe this crap that ends up being what we needed to learn or helps pave the way for some future thing that we sometimes can't even envision.
Yes. Exactly. That's my life story. That is my story.
It's pretty cool. So I want to ask you a little bit about your spiritual path. And you alluded to this a little bit because I know you went and you got this degree.
Certification, or I guess it's a degree.
Certification, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of curious about, how your spiritual life influences you when you think about what you want to do with your life and how you might reinvent yourself. Is there a connection between whatever spiritual practices you have and what you're able to create in your life?
Yes. I'm one of these people, I'm always hearing God's voice. Like I've been hearing God's voice since I was a little kid. Like God has been speaking to me always. Now, there have been many, many years where I've absolutely ignored God.
I know that feeling.
Absolutely be like, I don't want to hear it. I don't lay this for you, God. I don't want to do any of that. And then there have been moments when I could feel the calling so clearly that I just followed it. And that's how I got to the School of Spirituality. I had wanted to go to the divinity school, and I was too afraid to apply. So I thought, well, my next best thing would be like, well, let me just dabble in this and go to the School of Spirituality, not knowing that the School of Spirituality was such a transformative time. I've never had an experience where it was just devoted to the presence of God. That's all it is. It's just being in the presence of God and knowing that every single day. And that was rich for me. It really took everything that I knew and understood about God and framed it out in a way that said, this is why you were called to this, that, and the other thing. Like the map became very clear. Like it became very clear how far I've come and how God has carried me. So, and it's funny because today is the first day of Lent, and my I went to Church of Redeemer. I think you know that,
Right.
and it shut its doors 2 years ago, and I haven't had a church home since. So, so I was thinking, and Lent is one of my favorite times. So I just decided yesterday that I would just take on Lent and journal and write prayers, pick music that will motivate me every single day, and get out there and date. I was like God and dating and Lent. Like I don't know how to. I just feel called to do that. So for the next 40 days, I'm gonna craft my online bio. I'm gonna make it my business to meet people for romantic or for love interest. It's like I'm looking for a love interest,
I love it.
an additional love interest. I have lots of love interests. I have lots of romance. I live a very romantic life. So additional romance, additional love interest. That's what I really want to say.
I love it. And I feel like that, what you're saying is about that idea of I want to manifest this. I
Yes.
am willing to put myself out there. I'm willing to take a risk, which is everything to me about being a reinvention rebel, right? It's all about whether it comes from within and, it's God speaking to you or the universe or whatever, but trusting that feeling, being led by that, and understanding it all really is going to work out. That if you trust and you put it out there, that intention, that you really can create that.
Yes. I mean, I don't know how to operate it any other way, Wendy. Like I just think that way. You know, when everybody was all going on and on about The Secret, I was already living The Secret. Like I was already living manifestation kind of stuff. When everybody was like, "Oh, look what I discovered," I was like, "Baby, I've already figured that
Been there,
out.
done that, right?
I've
That was
already figured
decades
that
ago.
out. I don't know how to do any other thing other than manifest what I want. You know,
Yeah.
who says
Yeah.
I will what I want? Who said that? Someone famous said that. I will what I want, and I just love it. I love it. It's some famous woman said it. I will what I want. Oh God, it's gonna drive me crazy. I can't remember who said it. I don't know if it was Venus. I don't think it was Venus Williams, but it was somebody of that, and I just
Yeah.
loved it so much. So I'm taking my cues from that. I have the power to will what I want.
I completely agree. So, Babs, as we wrap up, I want to ask you about any wisdom that you would share with Reinvention Rebels listeners. So, some listeners are like, I am already a Reinvention Rebel and I just love these stories. And others are, I want to become a Reinvention Rebel and I am inspired by listening to these stories of these amazing women. So I'm really curious about what advice or wisdom you would like to share for women who have this inkling that there's something more. They
Mm-hmm.
have this idea, but they really don't know where to begin. So they know that they want to change something. They're not sure where to start with perhaps rediscovering themselves or reimagining their life. What advice do you have for how someone might just dip their toe in and start down that path?
So the quote, "I will what I want," is by Misty Copeland, the ballerina,
Ah,
and that has
yes.
stayed with me. So I just love
I
it.
love that.
I think the best advice, and I don't like to give advice to people, um, but I tell you what I live by. I walk in truth. I tell the truth. I tell the truth to myself. I tell the truth to other people. There's nothing in the world that can save me or rescue me. That's me. I do that. I rescue me, I save me. There's no force out there stronger than my own heartbeat. I save myself. I am my own savior. Nothing can hurt me unless I allow it to hurt me. You know what I mean?
I
Like
do.
I know how to be my own assassin. I've given that up. I no longer beat myself up. I think if I had to give somebody advice, be kind to yourself. Treat yourself as if you are your own best friend. You would never say to your girlfriend, "Girl, you are fat. Girl, that shirt looks terrible. Girl, your butt is big. Girl, you would never say that to your friend.
Exactly.
You would never say that to your child. You would never
Right.
say that to a just sitting at a bus stop who was crying. You would just
Yeah,
say it because you
exactly.
would offer some other words of encouragement. So what are you willing to give out? You must internalize. And it's hard for people. I would tell people, keep your own counsel. Get right with your own spirit. Trust what you know. We don't trust what we know. You know when you hurt. Listen, you know when you're hungry. You know when you are tired. You know when your back hurts. You know if sex is good.
Right.
You know when sex is bad, or when
Right.
it's just mediocre, or he needs this more than I do today. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, he'll be done. There'll be other
Right.
times where I'll get bigger pleasure, but right now, this is what it is. And
Yeah.
and and I'm not suggesting that anybody be fake anything, but what I'm saying is tell the truth about your own self, and be truthful about what things are. Because sometimes we cast doubts where there ought not be doubts, and we are harder on ourselves than we are to people we love. If you cannot extend grace to yourself, and
Yes,
people
well.
they won't extend grace to themselves. I will tell any woman who is listening to the sound of my voice, extend grace to yourself first. Be kind to yourself. Stand in that mirror and say, I am enough. I am beautiful. Even if you don't believe it, because you're not going to believe it the first time you do it. You're just
Yeah.
not. Because you're going to look
Yeah.
in that mirror and you're going to see all the flaws. You're going to see your dark circles. You're going to see your crow's feet. You're going to see whatever. You're going
Yes.
to just
Yes.
see everything.
Yeah.
You're going to see
I
all the gray hairs. You're just going to look past that. You know what? Treating yourself well is like a muscle. You just have to keep at it. You have to keep treating yourself well and saying kind things to yourself. My nephew, when he was a little boy, he used to say, like, Auntie Babz, use kind words. Because he heard me, fussing about something or other. And he was like, Auntie Babz, please use kind words. And I was like, Taylor, okay. And that has stayed with me. So I must use kind words here in my own
Yeah.
heart. So yeah, so that's my advice.
That is,
Listen, take care of yourself.
yeah, that's beautiful. And I couldn't agree with you more. I never talk to other people the way I talk to myself, which I've
Girl, we never do.
right, right. It's so like a spot on. But there is something very empowering though when we recognize our own greatness.
Yes.
When we say, I am worth it, and we can
Yes.
say that proudly, even though obviously we're all flawed, but when we can see beyond that, to your point, and recognize that we are in this world for a purpose, that we have something valuable to give, that we can always make a difference, that we really are valuable. When we can see that in ourselves, it is amazing.
You are beautiful. Who's to say you're not? Who are the people
Exactly.
and why do you believe them?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Right. Why? Why?
Who are they and
Why?
why do you believe them?
Exactly, exactly. And maybe that comes with wisdom, right? Age and wisdom to be able to
Yes.
recognize that we can't, when we're
No,
20
it
something,
is, yes. When you're 20 something, you don't know. I've got 20-year-old daughters. They don't have a clue.
yeah, yeah,
Everything wounds them. Everything is,
exactly.
I'm like, oh my
I know.
God.
We had no idea. We had no idea. I know people would love to know where they can find you. How can they reach out to you? Where are you? I know you're a social media queen.
Instagram, love Babz on Instagram. I'm terrible about accepting people on my social media. So it might take me a minute to get to people. But I'm on Instagram. I mean, people can always email me if they feel inclined. mediababz@gmail.com. MEDIABABZ at gmail.com. So that's the best way to reach me, actually. But if you want to, follow along on social media, it's Love Babz on Twitter. It's Love Babz or Babz Rawls Ivy on Facebook. Love Babz Love Talk on Facebook. Love Babz on Instagram. So yeah, I'm not on anything else.
Well, that's enough. I mean,
Girl.
right?
I saw people like, you got to come join Clubhouse. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, I know. I can't do one more thing. I'm already easily consumed by the
yeah,
things I'm already
yes,
doing on social media, right? That's like
yes,
another job unto itself,
it is. I was like,
right?
no, I'm not doing that.
I love it. I love it. Well, I really can't thank you enough for joining me today. You
Thank you. I'm so
always,
happy. I love this title, Reinvention Rebel. That is the coolest name ever. I wish I could have thought of that.
well, you know what? It came to me in a whisper, one of those, like whispers from the universe or the words of God. It just came to me when I was meditating one day and I just heard the littlest whisper, Reinvention Rebels. Girl, and I didn't know what it was, but I just wrote it down. When I get those moments now, I'm wise enough to know. I better write that down. Right? That means something, right? I was like, I don't know what it means, but I'm going to write it down.
And then I come back.
Right? And I came to realize, oh, that's it. And it is a blast to inspire.
It's so powerful.
Women.
Like I immediately get excited when I hear it. Like, ooh, it's going to be transformative. Like if I listen to your podcast, it's going to be transformative, no matter who you're talking to, because it's Reinvention Rebels. So whoever she's talking to is going to be transforming. Like that's how my brain thinks that way.
Yeah. So it's awesome. It's awesome. So I am so grateful that you joined me today. Such a pleasure and joy to get to talk to you about life, aging, reinvention, the endless, unlimited possibilities that you talked about, that we're so powerful. We can do anything if we decide we can.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's all in our minds, right?
And I mean, we've done so much already. So
right. And I cannot wait to. Right, we have. We've done so much. And, I'm all excited about your little house in Costa Rica. Girl, I was like, okay. Hey, hello. Sounds amazing. Come on. I love it.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, amazing listener. Did you love today's episode? Did you find inspiration you can apply to your own life? I'd love for you to take a moment to rate and review the Reinvention Rebels podcast on your favorite platform. That would be awesome, and I would be so appreciative. Let's help spread the word to more people and get them inspired. Hey, Rebel. If this episode inspired you to think about what's possible in your life, I'll share a little secret. Any of us can reinvent ourselves no matter where we are in our lives, any age, any stage. We just have to decide to get started. Here's a super simple way for you to get going with your reinvention dreams. Download my audio, 5 questions to spark your curiosity and inspire your reinvention journey. I share 5 key questions that will spur your thinking, help you uncover your dreams, and motivate you to take action. Because if not now, when? Details in the show notes. Let's get inspired together.